Good evening. We're beginning now our discussion on the idea of Simcha through the lens of Chassidus. And we want to focus today, be'ikr, on how Simcha is going to be dealing with the challenge of Yisurim, or the challenge of any suffering which there is. How could we be besimcha at this, and while at the same time being honest and open to what's happening? In other words, this is clear that Simcha is not a state of denial. Simcha is a pnimistic thing, it's an emes thing, it's the most emes. So it has to be that when we be Simcha, at the same time, we are confronting the challenges and we have some kind of answer, response to any suffering that we're dealing with. We know, Mishanichnes Adar Marbin Besimcha. Bichlal, the Aveda of a Yid, as the Rabbi would always say, if there is Hashem Besimcha, so every day and every moment of every day, a Yid has to serve the Eibishter. So Simcha really has to permeate every day. However, b'miyuchet in Chodesh Adar we have the union of Simcha. Now, the reason why Chodesh Adar has the union of Simcha is not only because Purim is in Chodesh Adar, or because there's a day Yudalet Adar which spreads throughout the entire Chodesh. Nor, just like we have L'moshel Shabbos HaGadol, the tzura of the way Chachamim were masakin it is the Shabbos before Pesach. There are days that would Yomim Tovim, or specific days which were done according to the day of the month or the day of the week. There are days, so even though, let's say, the actual Me'ura transpired in one part of the day, but no one's going to say that Yom Tzeis Chameres Mitzrayim is only going to be Be'etzem Hayom Hazeh, not by night, because actually Tzias Mitzrayim was at night. So al derech zeh, the way the Lashon HaKosuf, the Lashon HaPasuk, V'negei Chodesh Adar is, we don't say that it was a day which was turned over. It was HaChodesh Asher Nepach Lehem, it's the entire month. So Melachatchila, the tzura of the way the nes happened was that it was a negative Chodesh, and it became a positive Chodesh, a Chodesh Asher Nepach Lehem. The pastors, like Chazal say, that when Hippel Pur Hu HaGeirol, Haman assumed that it's because of Chodesh Shemes Bein Moshe, his luck is showing well for him. Leidach, he didn't realize that Chodesh Shenelad Bein Mashiach Shal Yisrael. So it's really it's about the month, and it's not only about the day of Purim, and that's the pshat of the word Mishanichnas Adar Marbin Besimcha. Now, my nafkemina. So first of all, the nafkemina is, even if you have a month where you don't have a Purim, L'moshel, you could have a Chodesh Adar Rishon. So there's a concept of the chiyuv of Simcha, even if you don't have the actual day of Purim. The other nafkemin is that every day of the month, the Lashon, the way the Rabbi would always say is, Mishanichnas Adar Marbin Besimcha, every day I have this chiyuv. So I'm Marbin Besimcha on the first day of the month, and then the second day I have to be Marbin even more Besimcha compared to the day before, and Al Derech said the third day biyachas to the second day. So it's a constant aliyah in Simcha, and it's a chiyuv every day to break the boundaries of the Simcha of yesterday, because it's the Chodesh Shnepach Lehem. It's a chiyuv in this day of the month of Chodesh Adar. In fact, the Rebbe would always say, even after Purim, the Simcha has to constantly grow. Now, K'muvin, the biggest challenge to Simcha is that l'chayre we often deal with inyanim, specifically Yisurim Gashmim, or things that transpire as a community, as a collective in the Klal Yisrael, which take away the Simcha. So what we want to do today is understand how is it possible for us to be mekayim this chiyuv of Mishanichnas Adar Marbin Besimcha, while at the same time facing the realities of the metzius of inyanim which are gerim tzar. Now, it's interesting. This inyan is take the way the Alter Rebbe presents it in Perek Chavav, when the Alter Rebbe first brings the idea of Simcha, the first thing that the Alter Rebbe does is addresses this challenge. So it's clear, even before we're dealing with challenges in Aveda, various Efanim in Atzvos, the first thing that we have to confront is this issue of Yisurim Gashmi. Now, Bichlal, this is Negeya for, obviously, to understand in Simcha and to be able to properly be B'Simcha, this has to be addressed. But it's just, there's another reason why I want to address it today, is just last week, there was Nifter, a younger man, and I don't know if anybody knew him over here. His name was Yossi Rosner. He was a younger man, actually from Williamsburg, as a Agresim Yuchas, a Einikel from the Wiener Rav, from the Papa Rav, and he was in Ganzen Arangeton in Chassidus Chabad, and he suffered a lot. He had Yana Machle, and he came back a few times, and he had the various challenges. Yisurei Iyev Mamish. However, his life was constantly finding in Chassidus the answer, and I durchit on this sugya so many times, and from every perspective, from every approach. So this limud should be Lila Nishmosei, Yosef ben Rabbi and Yeshua, the Neshamas al Haman Ali. Okay, so let's begin with the Pasha Tekashe. L'chayra, how could I be besimcha if I have Yisurim? Nochmer, this is not just a shaila in Hergish, it's also a shaila in Ashkafe. L'chayra, having Yisurim confuses us with the klal with Manavshach. Is it coming from the Eibishter? The klal is doch ein ra yered milamayla. And when we say ein ra yered milamayla, this is a yisod b'pashtus, because by the Eibishter lo yigur chara, if it's coming from the Eibishter Alein is good, how could the ra come from good? So this is a challenge which we have sai in Hergish and sai in Seichel. This is the ultimate question. Why does bad things happen to good people? What's going on? The answer is that kol madavav the rachmana letavavit. Even though b'chitzenis it looks like it's something negative, ali b'de'emes it's positive. This is the general answer of Yiddishkeit, and specifically in Chassidus. This is developed more and more. And what we're going to see today is that there are, in Tanya itself, l'chayra, 4 different mahalchim in how the Alter Rebbe deals with this. And what we want to do is pashat work milamata lamayla. There's various ways how to be masaderet. The Rebbe wants masaderet in one way, in Sichin B'chokaisai. But for the purpose of our discussion, we want to see first the way it is in Igeres HaTshuva Perik Yud Beis, then in Siman Chav Beis in Igeres HaKedesh, then in Siman Yud Aleph, and then finally come back to Perik Chavav in Tanya, which is, and understand the full emek of how the Alter Rebbe addresses this inyan of the challenges against Simcha. Now, before we get into it, there's just one important bavarinish, just for clarity. So da apostach kire, as me fragt in the Welt, it's common to ask, is Simcha natural, or is Simcha something that we have to produce? In other words, is a person born, be'etzem besimcha, and the atzvus is only getting in the way and we have to get potter from it? Or fakert, a person really is hollow, and he has to have his bonusen, dvarim ha'meviim lidei simcha. Now, the Raya mezogt in the Welt, this is not a chassidische word dafke, mezogt in the Welt that you see that children, babies, when they are born, they are naturally besimcha. If a child is crying, it's because something's bothering him. He's hungry, he's tired, he's uncomfortable, he's dirty, there's something bothering him. Because naturally, the nefesh is besimcha. It's not just that naturally the nefesh is besimcha. If we understand the concept of simcha, by definition, simcha is just the gili of the natural of the pshitas hanefesh. In other words, what's a taich simcha? Simcha means that the nefesh is fully expressive. The person is not being withheld. His nefesh is beis galus. V'daloshon aidu a simcha peiret together. That is the concept of Simcha, the way it's always explained in Chassidus. So it's a person comes out in an eifin of Gili, Hispashtus, which is Bina, and that's the idea of Simcha. So clearly, just for clarity, Simcha is not something which we have to produce. Simcha is who we are. Or bepashtus. Just to be mamchish it on a very simple level, every tnuah of Simcha is really bursts out from within. In other words, what's the idea of someone laughing? It's because there's a pshitis within my nefesh, a clarity which is coming out. And that's a person bursts out laughing. Or even as he smiles, he cracks a smile. In other words, he's being megala the way he is naturally, and he's overcoming the hagbalas, being limited in a mokim of complications, in a mokim of inhibitions. He comes out with simcha. So simcha is not something which we're making. Simcha is what we're being megala our very selves. It says, the Rebbe said, Tafshan Lamed Zayin, that when it comes Chodesh Adar, the klal is, if you have a din teira b'hadei nochri, you're dealing with, not din teira, you have a court with a guy, then you should schlep him into Chodesh Adar. And then you'll be able to win the case. So the Rebbe touched it in Aveda. If you're dealing with the challenge of the Nefesh HaBahamis, in other words, a person is in a mokum of suffix, a person is torn. What's the solution? Come to the place of Adar. Come to the place of Simcha. Why? Because in Simcha ka'ataras asfekis. What's a taich Simcha? Simcha is that there's a certain clarity of pshitas hanefesh. When that comes out, so it's memela, there's ataras asfekis. Or memela, there's no mokim for the tug of war which there is between the nefesh alekis and nefesh bahamis. So shlep the goy or the goyishkeit shebekirbeinu to chedesh adar, and b'derech memela the sfekis will become mutter in simcha kataras asfekis. So l'sikum, simcha is not something which we are giving birth to, as the way we would say l'mashal meichin makes a midah, generates a midah. It's a hergish which I didn't have, and through his bonanus I now develop this midah. The way simcha works is fakert. It's pshitas hanefesh. It's the gili of the nefesh. All we have to do is allow it to come out. And now this word, the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, in Perek Chavav, in a few short words. The Alter Rebbe says, what's the idea of simcha? When he explains the importance of a person being with simcha, he says, the Loshen, a person being with simcha is that he has to purify himself from every kind of daige and eitzev, or being melancholy or worries or things which are pulling him down. He has to free himself from that, purifies taharosei from that. And that's what we'll have when we have simcha. Lefiza. Fragt sich the kasha. If so, how do we have in Tanya so many hisbonensen and various avenues of how to make simcha? Whether we're talking about a person is atzvus from his machshavas zaros, or from daigas ha'avenes, or bizman ha'avedes, shleibishas ha'avedes, all what we're talking about in our discussion, the issue of a person being ba'atzvus from the challenge of yisurim gashmi. L'chayre, which bonus is there? How could there be various bonus? The point of simcha is, like we say in the Sprach of Chodesh Adar in Purim, Adalei Yada, to bring myself to a place higher than das, just this pshitas hanefesh, and let's celebrate. So obviously the pshat is, and this is going to be important to Hagdama for the rest of our discussion, the pshat is we're not producing a simcha. We're not making for ourselves, being kind for ourselves, a specific simcha. Simcha is bepashtos, this pshitas hanefesh, where we let loose and we go and dance, or we say l'chaim, or we have dvarim ha'ma'irim as a simcha, which bring out a pshitas, a blikvul nefesh, p'kudei havai yisharim esamchei lev. what we're doing in this bonus, or these four stages in this bonus, which we're going to be dealing with today, is all ways of overcoming the challenge against Simcha. In other words, it's an answer to these kashas. This is not going to give us Simcha. The person cannot become the Simcha from thinking about these bonus. Simcha has to come from a place of pshitas hanefesh, of clarity in my identity. I'm a Yid, Shleasani Goy, this is who I am, and I'm connected to the Eibishter. I'm challenged by these various things. Of them come the Alter Rebbe. The solution to every problem is his bonus. So Mamele is going to give us various methods of how to deal with these problems, the challenges against Simcha. So to summarize, what we're doing today is we are looking to practically come to a place of Mishanichnas Adar Marbim B'Simcha, and how could we face the challenges of Yisurim Gashmim and Imkol Zebi B'Simcha. So what is Simcha? Is Take Ta'arosim and Kol Nidnu Daige. It's the clarity, the pshitas of Nefesh. But we need a response. How could we make that the Yisurim which we are suffering from are not going to pull us away from our natural state of Simcha? Okay. Ad Kan is the Hagdams. Is this clear? No, the Reb Shalom, we could continue? Okay, thank you very much, everybody who does have a camera on. It's really appreciated.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Sure.
Unless I can save to the end. Going back to a joke or something that makes us laugh. You said it's a Gilui of Pshitas Nefesh.
Okay.
A Gleichwertel, right? There's a certain Einug of the irony or the V'nahapechu, there's a certain Tainug there. So is that Hainuhach, the Tainug, the Pshitas Nefesh? I'm just wondering
So I
that much.
I don't know if we want to get involved now in the mechanics of humor, but the tzad hashava of all humor is a certain surprise, either because it's so typical or because it's so atypical, or there's always a certain surprise. And what the surprise does, it jolts a person out from his rhythm, and it brings out a pshitza nafshe. It's a burst of something more nafshistic, more pure in his nefesh. That's the experience of all tzchak.
So you're saying it wouldn't be so much tainug as much as it is something that elevates us beyond the regular,
right?
Which leads to pshitas nefesh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
So every level of simcha is going to be more gila pshitza nefesh. Whether it's going to be hagbaras atzura lachema, when a person is very besimcha, he doesn't feel his guf bichlal, and he feels very light-footed, he'll go and dance. Or the more a person feels the pshitas of the nefesh, the less he feels the dvarim hamagbilim. The idea of a tzchaik was just a way of bringing out how you see over here this friction of the pshitas nefesh overcoming and bursting forth despite the hagbalas of the guf.
I guess my question or my nuance is in Welt, in the secular world, right? Pleasure is simcha. That's what's sold. Pleasure gets you simcha.
Right.
We disagree. So, and so it's like even kosher tainug, that's not true. It's not.
No, it's too. I mean, it's certainly in Chassidus, chachma is tainug, bina is simcha. It's a totally different thing. And it's not really for the purpose of our discussion. Just one word about that. When a person is betainuk, a person is withdrawn. A pleasure a person has himself. Simcha he has with others, right? You want to celebrate, it's always with other people. Simcha is about breaking boundaries. Tainuk is really about withdrawal and connection. It's a totally different experience. And the idea of Simcha is that there's a certain pshitas of bligvul in the nefesh, which could come out and not rechen sich with any of the hagbalas. Gufniim, nafshiim, whatever it is.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Fine. So let's begin with the first biur. The way is in Igaris HaTshuva Perek Yud Beis. This is a very Yisayistic Inyan, and it's the most pashute elementary beer of understanding how to deal with Yisur. So the Alter Rebbe says a pashta cheshbon. Behektim. We know that everything that exists over here has a sheirish l'mayla. So even though it says Hatayr medaberes b'alyenim u'meramezes b'tachteinim, so the way things are, the way they are l'mayla, that's how they are in their true form. And what we have over here is just a pale version, some kind of diluted musik of these inyanim. So everything that we have over here is just the me'ain of the way is l'mayla. So even though it's only b'tzimtzum achar tzimtzum, le'idach, it is a full expression of the way things are l'mayla. Umemela. Anybody who learns Kabbalah, Pnimis HaTorah, appreciates an added value to everything that goes on in the world. And even technical things. So we're going to say which color clothes I'm going to wear. So if I'm wearing white clothes, so it's an expression of Chesed Atzilus. So this is really a reflection of the full truth of the import of the way things are Lamaila in a true world. This is the idea of Seder Shashos. Just so lately in the Fabrengen, the Rebbe says a word, that halavai, it's a shame that people don't know this inyan of and it would be a solution for many problems if people would have a clarity in this inyan. In other words, it's this perspective, which is the Pnimis HaTorah perspective of seeing everything as really an expression of something truer and having more weight than the way we see it in our superficial world. So, on a very simple level, we could have Mechilas Chatoim on Yom Kippur, and the expression of it is going to be that a white or a red piece of wool is going to turn white. So that's going to be an expression of a full truth of an inyan of Kaparas Avenis, which is Lamayl. Al derech zeh, everything that we have. And this is the world of any inyanim gashmim that we do over here. Be'etzem, what we are doing is, we are, so to speak, making kelim for a truer world, the emesavat. Le'idach, and this is the Chiddush of Chassidus, that works both ways. Not only is, so to speak, Atzilus expressed over here lamata, but everything that we do over here lamata has a control, has an influence of the way things are lamayla. And the Pashata, the way the Alter Rebbe describes this is commercial hatakas hashemsh. So if you're going to have a sun clock, a dial, so in order for the shade to move over here lamata, how far does the shade move? So it could move a few amos or a few tfachim. But in order for that to move, if we're talking about in the sun, so the sun is going to be moving many, many miles in order for the shadow to move an inch over here. So it's really a full expression of this movement. And if it would have moved less miles, then it would move less over here lamata. But it's the same thing on scale. So you have the same 360 degrees in the sun's movement and in the movement over here, the way we have it in this world. But a degree over here and a degree over there, so a degree over here may be a tefach, and a degree lamayla could be many thousands of miles. So it's the same teichen, the way it's expressed over here lamata. Now, the same way works the opposite. Just like lamayla is mashpia on lamata, lamata is mashpia on lamayla. And this is the phenomenal idea that when a person does a maisa over here, like the example Alter Rebbe gives is, when a person brings a korban, or he could bring a bird as a sacrifice in the Mizbeach, this could make a shinui l'mayla in Seder Shashos. Why? Even though over here I've only moved something, I've done a small maisa, but it's true, in degree it's the same. I've done a very small thing, but the way it's going to reverberate and express itself, l'mayla, on scale, is going to be bein arech. And that's the pastures, the power that we have when we say, I'm putting on tefillin. So what I'm doing is physically putting on my meach and on my lev tefillin, or I'm being meshabed my meach and my lev. But what's happening in my little life, because I'm connected to Atzilus, to the way things are by the Eibishter. So by the Eibishter, there's also going to be a hamshacha from Meichen and Midas, from Chabad to Chagas in Atzilus. And that's the pele of the power of what we have over here, Lamata, to be able to do. So, in short, the Eibishter's full breadth, so to speak, everything that happens over there is expressed in our little world, and everything that we do in our little world has an influence on the way things are lamai, on scale. Now, Lefizeh says the Alter Rebbe, a meridik avart b'negei Yisurim. Our world, we experience Yisurim, but the way we experience Yisurim is Gashmisik Yisurim. How does that influence the way things are lamaila? When our nefesh has to leave the body, the nefesh has to experience pain on a nafshistik level. It experiences pain the way it is in Gehenna. So it goes off the account. Every time I suffer over here physically, it's going to go off the account on scale, the Yisurim, the way it would be lamaila. So the Lashon, the way it says in Tanya is, he brings from the Ramban, it's Echad Mishishim. It's 1 in 60. And really he adds, it's not just 1 in 60, it's Ein Lahem Erech Klal. Why? Because it's Teva Gdela V'Atzuma. It's not, like the Rebbe explains, it's not just in Kamus. It's not just a difference in quantity. We're talking about a totally different kind of suffering. Maybe just Lahamchasha, just like we understand in our nefesh. When a person could go through physical pain, like he hit his finger, or a person could go through emotional pain, nafshi pain. Now, they are be'en arech. As much as there is discomfort in physical pain, it's not just less than emotional pain, than nafshi pain. It's shalei be'erech, legamri. It's a totally different world. It's not, you can't even say it's 1 of 60. Now, all of nafshi pain that we experience, it's the way our nefesh is melubish b'haguf. So if somebody was mevayish mi barabim, or if a person has agmas nefesh from his family, from his children, or whatever it is, the pain is an emotional pain, the way the nefesh is melubish b'haguf. How does the nefesh experience when the nefesh is not in the guf? That's something which is hard for us to understand. Because we're experiencing a nefesh the way it's melubish b'haguf, the way it became a megusha. Now, obviously in seichel it's understood that the nefesh doesn't stop experiencing her experiences once she leaves the guf. Why should it stop? Any emotional pain, we'd say, or bechlal emotions, love and excitement and hope, anything which exists in the nefesh, which are not physical things. So once it leaves the body, why should it stop? Where did it disappear? So it's clear that the nefesh continues having all of these experiences, and not just has them, but manifold. Because now it's not going to be limited to the way he is experiencing it in the guf. So now everything which the nefesh is going to experience lamaila is going to be, like he says, 60-fold. Echad mishishim. But it's really be'en arech because it's a totally different quality. It's a different kind of experience. And therefore the pain, which is going to be, when the nefesh lamaila has pain, it's something which is not imaginable for us. What kind of pain this is? So we're being told something very simple. When I have some kind of physical pain, or even nafshistika pain, the way is melubish ba'aguf, it's taking off on the account from the way things are going to be lamaila when the neshama is going to have to go to Gehenna and is going to have to suffer. Why does it work that way? How could it take off the account? Because that's bichlal, just like we saw b'negei mitzvah, when I do a small ma'aseh, that could have an influence on the way things are in a cosmic level, lamaila. So al derech zeh, in degrees, it works the same. We have the same inyan of pain, but it's going to take off on scale the way things are lamaila. And this is a wonderful idea just to think about. Imagine if we would have a person, or we're told, every time I take from you $1, so your chayvus in the bank is going to take off $1,000. So it may be uncomfortable and it may be inconvenient every time you're stealing from me $1. But every time you're taking something from me, that's you're giving me the biggest favor. You're taking from me off a chayv from the bank. So when the Eibusher comes and gives us Yisurim over here, he's really telling you that you're going to be suffering less in Gehenna. There's another tifer of art. It says in Ein Beis, there's a Maimer Beker Vayeda, Tofrish Ein Dalet, it's part of Hemshech Ein Beis. He says that the Ein Areich of Yisuri Elam Hazat to Yisuri Gehenna is that in Gehenna you're distant, entirely distant, be'etzem from the Eibishter. That's the nafshistic experience, the nafsh alikis. In Gehenna is that I am far from the Eibishter. In Elam Hazat, a person's not far from the Eibishter. It's by choice. He could decide to sin, or Bacharta B'chaim. He could decide to become close to the Eibishter. Mashenkin in Gehenna, he's forced to be in a state of being distant, or Mamela, it's real pain for the nafsh alikis. So we're being told every time you have suffering over here, it's taking off from the account of suffering lamai. Now, this beer, which is the most pashata beer, and how to deal with the union of Yisurim, and how we could be besimcha despite having the experience of Yisurim, it says in Acher Beis Memtes, this is the idea of Gadlus HaMeichim. So it's pasha, the approach is using a breadth of seichel, understanding things, not on a superficial level, just looking at what transpired. Look at the big picture. And the more I look at the big picture, I'll understand that really what's being done for me over here is a favor. So even though Lepayil, I'm suffering now, in the big picture, it's a gift. So there's a lashon, it's a beautiful lashon in a letter in Chelik Daled in Nigris. It's a letter Tov Tov Kuf Nun Vav. The Rebbe says as a lashon. Benegay, a person suffering. Ha'inyonim yesh lem achize b'metzias. They do exist. Aval zeh she'em munutzalem ha'idei ha'yetzer liyush hu eine yemes ela spitzel von yetzer. They do exist, but it's the Yitzhahara which is coming and pulling you down to Yush because of this. Why is it the Yitzhahara? L'chera, they do exist. Because with the appropriate perspective, you see things in proportion, so the Adarabah, you look at it as a gift. There's a lashon over there in another letter in Chelik Dalet Tov Tov Kuf Peches. That's the letter. Igeres Tov Tov Kuf Peches. He says as a lashon. Hareishem memuorois chaya adam olav tolui boy be'ezeh harifus umekablo. The reishem, when everything a person experiences in Elam Hazeh, it's up to him with how sharp be'ezeh harifus he's going to experience them. So of course a person does suffer, but you need Gadlus HaMeichim to look at things with perspective. Okay. Atkan is the first beer, the simple beer, and how to deal with Yisur. What's the chisaron with this beer, with this bonus? The pashtos. Chisaron is that sof, I am suffering. And the suffering is not good. You're just telling me it's worth it. It's $1 for $1,000 off the cheshbon in the bank. Okay. But it's $1. You haven't showed me, you haven't demonstrated how the ra is good. We know, we say, Kol ma da'ovid rachmana l'tav ovid, is pshat is that the ra is be'etzem good. L'tav ovid. Ein ra yered melamayla. How could I look at ra that really be'etzem it's coming from a good place? So over here, let's move on to a deeper beer, the beer of Siman Chav Beis. Siman Chav Beis in Igeres HaKodesh, the Alter Rebbe says a lashon, ha'ov, ha'chacham, ha'rachmon, ha'tzadik, ha'reichitz b'nei, like a moshel of a melech who is reichitz tzeis b'nei akot. So a person is dirty, a child, and the father comes and it's cleaning him, and it's painful because the dirt has somehow stuck to the child in a way that just scrubbing the child is going to be a painful experience. But this is not just saying that it's good for the son. It's coming from a place of goods. What is it be'etzem? It's an expression of love. It's only of harachamon, a father who cares, who's going to be investing so much to scrub his son clean. Or bepashtos, on a simple level, everyone understands that it's easier for a person to be kind to the child than to punish the child. You need more love, more care, more investment in your child to have this strength of character to be able to experience the pain of punishing a child, V'im calls that to do it. So when the Eibishter is giving himself over to us, and he's scrubbing us from our chatoin, in a eifon of Rechetz Tzeias B'nai Yechidei, really what's happening over here is the Eibishter is expressing his love. It's an expression of Av. So over here we have to look at this Maaseh, not just that in the big picture it's worth it. It's more than it's worth it. It's coming from a place of Av. That's all that it is. It's Be'etzem of Av. Like it says in the Geras HaTshuva, in Perek Aleph, he says, "Upakaditi daike." What's the title upakaditi? That which kavyochel, which part of the Eibishter, where's it coming from? The inyan of Yisurim or Einshim, it's coming from upakaditi, from him himself, from a deeper place of connection, and only from that place is he going to invest himself to give us this favor of only because he loves us. That's why he's being mechiachas. There's a classic Hayom Yom. It says that the Mittler Rebbe, when he heard the Teichacha for the first time not being learned by his father, he fainted. Why? Because he was used to hearing the Teichacha, hearing the way his father learned it, and his father, he would see the brachas. And now for the first time, he heard that it was klolos. And it says that he was sick throughout Tishrei. He mamish fell ill. So the Rebbe once chazed this story, and the Rebbe just by making an emphasis said a whole new depth, a new pshat. He said, "When a tata learned, it does brachas." The hadgasha wasn't just that it happens to be that the Alter Rebbe is the father of the Mittler Rebbe. What he's saying is, it's when I'm hearing my father learning, I hear a father talking, and when a father, it could be doing the same thing, but it's coming from Av. It's coming from a different place. Tata learned. There's a mashal that the Rebbe said, come upon him in different versions, when people asked the Rebbe about suffering. So the Rebbe said this mashal, that if a person walks into a room, and he sees a defenseless person lying over there, and he sees a few people standing around with knives, and they're cutting, and there's blood pouring all over the place, he would say bepashtus, he's in the company of murderers. He's in the company of bloodthirsty, violent people. But only if he understands the perspective, the breadth, that really what's happening over here is he's in a hospital room and he's walked in on a surgery. So what he's seeing over here is not just, are these people not people with midas rois? These are people who are so dedicated that they are prepared to experience the blood and whatever it is that they have, the draining part of the surgery, in order to save a life. So it's just for clarity, compared to the earlier beer. The beer, the way it was in the Geras HaTshuva, over there we said that because a person understands that it's worth it, he's losing $1 for $1,000. So it's fine. So he's going off the chavis the way he's in Gehenna. But the actual suffering over here, Lamata, is Ra. It's not Inyan of Ra. It has good results. It's worth it. Over here we're saying something else. It's coming from a place of Av. These surgeons are not just doing a bad thing, but be'etzem it's worth it. It's good. They are coming from a place of love. It says, Es Sheyev Yichiach. Okay. The Ravile is good. We could continue to the next shlav, the third. Okay. In Siman Yud Aleph, the Alter Rebbe goes a step further. What's pshat? What are we missing? We've already managed to demonstrate how every bad thing has good results. Not only does it have good results, it's coming from a good place. It's coming from Avareches Tzeis B'nai Yechida. What's missing? So the answer is that what's missing is that sof, it may be coming from a good place, but the actual maisa is a maisa of ra of gvur. What is it? It has a quality of something negative. Or bepashtos. When a person is, even in this surgery, it's not ideal that he has to be cut up. It is painful, and it's actually doing damage to the body. Alamai, it's for a good purpose, and it's coming from a place of love. Sa'alt kedan. Aber sof, there's something negative happening over here. It's an inyan of gvur, it's an inyan of ra. What's the chiddush of Siman Yud Aleph that we say no? Be'emes, it's all good. It's good because be'etzem it's good. Now, Siman Yud Aleph is really a much higher madrega. In fact, it says in some places that Siman Yud Aleph is coming from Aved of Yechida. So even though we're not all shaykh to the madrega of Yechida, but what we're saying over here is that just having this clarity that this is a libed emes, the way the Yechida looks at things, this could help us look at things akopanim in seichel, to know that this is the truth. The truth is that there's the approach of Siman Yud Aleph, and as we know, Chassidim, when dealing with this sugi of Kabbalah's Yisurim Ba'ava, or the Kabbalah B'Simcha, the union of Simcha together with Yisurim, the emphasis was on Siman Yud Aleph. To know the way things are libed emes. What's the vort of Siman Yud Aleph? So let's just say a pashta moshel. Sometimes you have a relationship of a father with the son, and the father sends the son money, and the father cares for the son, and he's dealing with all his needs. And Kamuvin, the son is very appreciative, and he shows back love every time the father gives, so the son is very receptive, and it's kamayim aponim lapon. At some point, the father starts thinking, is it true that the son loves me, or maybe he just loves what I'm giving him? Maybe he loves the money, or the care, or whatever, the attention. Does he love me? Now, there's only one way of finding that out. If the father is going to not give anything positive, and he's going to be mashpia in a negative way. And then it's going to be a test to see, does he really love me? In other words, do you love the money because you like money? Or do you like it because I'm the one who's giving it to you? If there's a real atzmistic kesher of a child with a father, again, we have to clarify. We're talking over here about a high madrega. This is a madrega of yechida, of having this atzmistic kesher. But like the lashon is af she'ena yochel, even though we're not on this madrega, still it's kedai to know the way things are alibed emes. Alibed emes, what's the relationship of a child with his father? Alibed emes. Everything which is coming from the father is good by definition, not because it's good, because it's useful, has utility. It's good because it's him. What's good? The father is good. So Mamela, any way the father is expressing himself, that's the way, that is good. So hein v'lav shaven etzla. Now, let's say it, b'lashon acher, if a father would come and hug his son, so obviously a son appreciates it. But what happens if the father is dirty or smelly or whatever it is? Will the son also accept it? So it's not comfortable. The hug is not comfortable. But what is it? It's his father. If he's still ready to appreciate the fact that it's anything which is my father, that is good. So if it's coming in a comfortable way or an uncomfortable way, what's good about it is not the comfort. What's good about it is that it's him. So what makes an inyan which is coming from the Eibishter good? Not that it's useful, that it's the Eibishter. Memela, any ashpah from the Eibishter is hein v'lav shaven etzla. So this is kamuvan madregas tzadikim. That a person should be able to be on this madrega is a wonderful thing. But This is the truth. Now, Kumuvan, in the mashal, it's the father wants to test his son because he doesn't know the truth. The Eibusha doesn't have to test us. The Eibusha knows the truth. The Eibusha is Re'el Alevav. The Eibusha doesn't have to, he knows what's our relationship with him. The test in the pshat of the Eibusha with the Yid is, he wants to bring that out. He knows that a Yid has this part of him. He has a Yechide which is be'etzim connected to the Eibusha and the Hein V'lav Shavin, it makes no difference. It's him. But if he's not going to be tested, it's not going to challenge the Yid to bring out that part of him which relates to the Eibusha on this level. So what's the purpose of all of Yisurim to bring out this atzmistic kesher? And that's why it says, V'ata toshav v'shamaita b'koil Hashem. Yeah? It says in the Teichacha they have to listen to b'koil, not l'koil, not to the voice of the Eibusha, b'koil, in the voice of the Eibusha. Because what's really hidden behind the koil, what's within, what's b'koil Hashem? Ali b'de'emes. It's a kiruv of the Eibusha. It's the Eibusha saying, I want to have an atzmistic relationship with you. So, to summarize, what we've done over here is, there is one way of dealing with Yisurim is understanding that it's worth it. That was Igeres HaTshuva Perikut base. Another way of understanding, of dealing with Yisurim is, it's coming from a good place. That was Siman Chav base. And now we're saying, not only is it for a good purpose, and not only is it coming from a good place, what is it? If you have this Yechididika relationship, what's the purpose over here? The Nisayin is to bring out as be'etzem, hein v'lav shaven etzle. Good and bad is the same. Because what's good? Good is the Eibishter. So Mele, if it's him, then it's shown good. Now, la'achre kol zeh, we still haven't reached the vart of Perek Chavav, which is the way the Alter Rebbe introduces. First, when the Alter Rebbe says that we have to have Simcha, the first way the Alter Rebbe says, so how are we going to deal with Simcha, even in the face of Yisurim Gashmim? He goes to the highest level, which is what we're going to do now, the fourth stage. It's not just for a good purpose, it's not coming from a good place, it's not only Hein V'lav Shaven Etzlei, it's actually, the Ra is even better than Teif. What's the Havana over here? What's Pshat that you could say that the Ra is even better than Teif? So we know the Lashon, everyone knows the Lashon in Perek Chavav says that it's coming from Alma de Iskasya, it's coming from a higher place, and it's really Teif HaNelam, and the fact that it's come down over here in Eifin of Ra is just the way it's come down. So, I mean, obviously the Pshat, it still needs to be explained. Hagufa. Why does it come in such a Eifin? If it's really good, why is it coming in a bad way? Why am I experiencing it in a negative way? L'chayre fakert. If it's good l'mayla, if it's even better l'mayla, so it should come down l'mata in an even better way. The emes is, this is a very general question. We know in Chassidus it always says that gvuris geshamim, the way is b'sharshay, is an eifin of gvuris. It's an outpouring. It's more ashpa. The way it comes down lamata is less ashpa. Like it says ata gibir. Tchias amesim comes from gvura. Gvura means tzimtzum. Gvura means less gili. But lamaila b'sharshay, gvura is really more gili. And therefore only mitzad ata gibir could there be the union of tchias amesim. Yeah, or Yitzchak. The tzchaik is gvura, and that's why it's the tzchaik is the union of the highest gili. So how does it work? Why Lamaila we say it's bligvul, and therefore Lamata came in Eifel Mugl. And Dafke Chesed, which Lamaila is not so bligvul, comes down Lamata with Mogil. What's the Havan? So there's a wonderful mashal from Rabbi Yael. It could be he was bringing it from somewhere else, I'm not sure, but it's the way he teaches Pshat over here, and it really sheds light and it gives us an understanding. It's a yesod in Chassidus Bichlal, and specifically in this sugi. So you could have two Talmud. You could have one Talmud that this Talmud approaches his Rav as some kind of transaction. He wants to be Mekabel from the Rav. In order for him to be Mekabel, so he has to come and be bottled. And he has a Misavik B'Faragleim. But he's coming to be Mekabel. Now, the Rav also has to give him Lefi Erech, what he could accept. If the Rav will give him too much, it won't be good. It'll only confuse him. So, what happens in a case when this Talmud is sitting Lifnei Rabbi, and the Rav is not mitzamtzim himself? The Rav shares with this Talmud his ideas the way he knows them, without processing them to be able to give them to the Talmud Kameshu. And his place, Lechem Lefi Ataf. So if he's a normal Talmud, he would say, stop. I don't want to hear this. Not only is it useless, it's actually damaging. It's going to confuse me for everything that I've learned till now. It's going to undo. I'm not a keli for this now. So give me only what I could accept. That's the pashtus, the relationship between the Rav and the Talmud. However, there is a different kind of relationship. What happens if we have a case where a Talmud loves his Rav? He's not here in order to accept certain svaras from the Rav. He's here because he wants to connect to the Rav himself. Now, whenever the Rav is mitzamtzim himself, so to speak, the Rav is not really sharing himself. When is the Rav really sharing himself? When the Rav is just being natural. When he's not condensing, he's not compromising himself. He's just saying things the way they are. He's sharing himself. Now, by definition, this is something that the Talmud cannot be mekabel. So, a regular Talmud would not be interested. But this Talmud, Adarab, when he begins to not understand the Rav, that's when he starts becoming excited. That's when he says, oh, the Rav is talking to me a language which is his language. He's sharing himself. If we would say, a pashta mashal from a chassid, standing by Fabreng. So some people appreciate the sikha that they do understand. Oh, a Rashi sikha with a kasha and a teretz, I walk away with something. Then there's another chassid who, when the Rebbe starts talking dafke in yanim, which are not understood, and sometimes the Rebbe says hechere in yanim, they say, oh, this is giluyim. The Rebbe is now expressing himself. The Rebbe read hecher. So what do you have a geschmack in them? L'cheira ad Rebbe. All you've done is you've created a situation where you're frustrated. You walk away with nothing. He said, you're right. If I would come here as a customer and I was planning to walk away with something, it wasn't a good deal. But the matara of me coming was because I love him. And the more I'm loving him means I want to get to know him the way he is, the natural him. So when the Rebbe talks in Eifen that's not understood, that's when I get turned on. That's when I'm interested in hearing. In other words, what does this mashal bring out? What do we gain from it? What we're saying over here is like this. The more gilui of the makir, the less the Talmud could be mekabel. Only a Talmud who loves the makir, who loves the Rav, would be interested in such a kind of relationship. Likewise is every hashpah from the Eibishter to the world. When the Eibishter is mitzamtzim himself, it comes into the world in a eifin that it's lefiarech the world. The world is a keli for it. So memela, it's a pleasant experience. Because it's just natural, it's part of the world. When the Eibishter shares himself with the world, when he's coming from a place of Amadei Eskasya, if he's sharing himself, there's going to be friction. It's not going to work. And therefore, it's going to be experienced in this world in a negative way. It's very unpleasant. Because it doesn't belong here. It's like the second Talmud. Only if you love the Eibishter, you're going to say, so what? I'm still interested because I'm interested in him. And he is sharing himself with me. The emes is, if we'll just say it in simple words, this is the idea of pain. Any painful experience is really just too much gilui. What's pshat pain? If a person comes and strokes your cheek, so it's an inyan of kiruv. But if a person does the same thing, just a bit harder and just a bit faster, it's called a slap. And that's called, and that's painful. So what happened over here? The hashpah was just too much. Al derech zeh is if a person comes and tells you of aram of art, it's pleasant. But if a person talks to you very personally, very aggressively, so if we don't have that close relationship, so it could be the biggest kiruv, but because it's somebody I don't know, so it's offensive. In other words, there's no such thing as giving a person ra. What you could do is give him little, lechem lefi ataf, then you're giving him good. Or you could be over giving. You could be overwhelming him. You could be providing too much. And then, in his experience, it will be ra. And this answers the question. We began with a question. So, is that could the Eibishter give ra? The answer is no. The Eibishter never gives ra. The Eibishter gives taif. Sometimes he gives a limited taif. So an experience, it's a positive experience. Sometimes he gives too much taif. It's overwhelming. So it's an experience in a negative way. So he never gave ra. Ein ra yered malamayla. Taif is yered malamayla, or taif ma'id is yered malamayla. Like it says the Bavus, the Lashon Chazal, yes, Malach HaMavis is taif ma'id. Why? Because it's too much gili. And its experience in this world is negative. Now, for a normal person, I would say, I don't care. I want to experience something which is pleasant in this world. But this is what we say, somebody, just like somebody who loves the sun, would want the sun and he's ready to get burnt. If he's going to be a Motzi Chama min Artika, if it's not going to be the cover of the sun, because I want to see the sun himself. Mitzad the gili of the emes. Likewise, it says, Mashiach, Mekablim Yisurim Ba'ava are going to be able to experience a gili of the Eibishter himself. Why? Because Mekablim Yisurim Ba'ava are people who love the Eibishter. It's like the second Talmud who loves the Rav. So it's not about what I'm gaining from it, it's about how much am I getting to know you. Only someone who experiences Yisurim in such a way, so the schar will be in Yemei Mashiach, Ve'evav K'tzeis HaShemesh B'Gvorasa. And this is what is known as the Nochomish Gamzu of Gamzu L'Teva. This is the Lashon the Alter Rebbe brings over there in Perek Chavav. It's not just. We'll summarize over here. We began with saying that you could have a ra which has a good results. You could have a ra which comes because of a good kavan. You could have a ra which is b'shavat atayv. Why? Hein v'lav shavat. It's the same thing. Over here, we're saying no. This is l'teva. Kol ma david rachmana l'tav avid. It's really just gili of more teva. It's emes teva. Why? Because it's coming from a deeper gili. It's the way the Eibishter is sharing himself with us. So, if we'll come back to the Mishanich Nasada Marvin B'Simcha, we began with saying that the Aveda of Chedesh Adar is every day we have to be Marbe B'Simcha. How could we be Marbe B'Simcha in the face of Yisurim, in the face of the challenges of suffering which we have in this world? So there are various ways of his bonanison in order for us to not disturb ourselves from expressing our Simcha. And the emes is, this is in the Purim Sprach, in the Mamorim is always explained, the union of Balayla Ahu, not the Doshnas HaMelech, that Dafke Balayla, Dafke Vanechi Aster Aster, in the places of the biggest Hester and the biggest Helem, that is in the truth, Balayla not that this gets turned over and we bring out how the union of Helem and of Cheshech is really union of Tev and of Gile and the Kiruv of the Eibishter Tas. This is the Venapichu. This is the Purim experience. So, in one word, what is Simcha? Simcha is Adalei Yoda. Simcha is an expression of Pshitas HaNefesh, where I'm just become potter from any disturbances to my Simcha because it's the natural I coming and expressing myself. However, if we want to do it in a Ofen of Chabad, where we deal with the actual challenges, so we have his bonus on how to think. How do we have the correct perspective on the various Yisurim? Or Mamela, we're not going to be disturbed. We don't have to live in a blind world where we're ignoring our suffering. We could face it. Ve'im kol zeh bi b'simcha and even von Adla Yoda and a simcha peretz geder in the emes simcha bis to the emes peretz geder the simcha of the Gula mitzvah shleim. Okay. Yeah. Simcha Rabbi. Any shilas? Oh, we have over here on the chat. No, it wasn't a shaila. So Yasher Keach. So anyone has any hisafis, questions, comments, concerns? No. Say the gomer.
Let me ask Stam once you're offering the open mic.
Sure.
Is this, as a shliach, are these perspectives something we can convey to the outside, to fremde? You know, you see October 7th, like I'm saying like the Holocaust was an exception to this, or every tragedy, meaning I know it's a big discussion. I'm just saying in short, do you think this is something that the world is a keli for? As an example, right? Someone's asking, right? So he was saying, someone just asked the same question in the chat.
Right? If someone wrote over here on the chat, can you apply this with practical example? If someone was suffering from Yana Machlo or the hostages in Gaza. So again, the actual simcha is not going to come from these isbonus. Meaning, simcha has to come from a place of clarity in my identity and connection to the Eibishter. That's where simcha is going to come from. Just like in Nefesh HaAdam, simcha is a place of pshitas. At no point do we say that we're going to be able to be meiled the simcha through a certain isbonus. These isbonusen are giving us tools in how to deal with things. Now, there's various madreges in how much we're going to actually be able to look at these Yisurim and experience them in such a way. But even if it's only in Seichel, like the Lashon, it says in Sim Yudalev, Af she'ena yochel, even though he's not on this madrege, but it's just knowing in the back of my mind that this is the truth. There's something calming about that. There's something reassuring, knowing that it's not hefker. The Ra is be'etzem teif. In my experience, it's painful. We're not saying that it's not painful. But just having this breath, like he said right at the beginning, the Lashon and Achrim Tzimim test, is beginning with Gadlus HaMeichin. Gadlus HaMeichin just gives us a confidence that when I'm going b'simcha, I'm not in denial. The simcha is pure. There's all of this going on. It's taken care of. So it could be approached in a Ifan of Emunah. Yeah, before the Alter Rebbe. So how would the Talmidei of Hashem Tov be Mekabel Yisurim B'Ahava? Shnegeh, there's no isbonus. There's just, we believe in the Eibishter and Gendik. Over here, he's giving us tools to know about this. Does it mean that I'm not going to experience pain? Of course, we're still going to experience pain. I hope that helped.
I mean, I think there's more. I mean, people say that, like, so in the particular Hispanus, I understand that, because you're saying Pshit Nefesh is irrelevant to all the problems. We have problems. We have stuff that's making us not accept Pshit Nefesh. So we have to justify them or contextualize them to not get bogged down by them.
Mm-hmm.
But so someone who's a hostage, I mean, to speak very crass, Hashem's Reichitz Espinoi, Avarachim and Melech Reichitz Espinoi. I mean, it's a very ruchnistic thing. So, I mean, there's a munah that there's something happening to the person, to the neshama, to the world. Did everyone say, as mepatch in panim, like sometimes the best? I mean, right. It's to give context that although this is unthinkable tragedy and suffering, but there's something bigger at play, and we get into details of what that bigger in play is, whether for this neshama, whether it's for nach 120. I think the one that's hardest is that like Hashem loves the hostage so much that they get the best.
We're not coming to justify. All we're saying is we don't understand. We're not coming to justify. We're not coming and saying, oh, there's some kind of cheshbon over here. Chas v'shalom, we're not coming to justify. What we're coming to say is, Mizan and Klyne mentioned, and there's bigger perspective over here. There was actually, once somebody came after the Yom Kippur War, I believe it was. It comes with a name. There was I think he was the general, he was in the Ramat Bet David. There's a
Air Force guy?
An Air Force, yeah.
He said his best friend was shot down. His best.
It could be that was the Maisa. So I don't remember it now, but the Pratim. But he asked the Rebbe, and the Rebbe told him if somebody would come to your army base and you would take him around and you would show him all the different machinery and the ammunition and the tanks, so this person would say that you're a murderer. What's this? A camp of this weapon could kill so many people, and this could work so fast, and this. He said, but only if you have the perspective would you understand that every one of the soldiers over here in this army base are tzaddikim, and they're coming to save lives, and this is and they're fighting, they're giving themselves away for a higher purpose. So the Rebbe didn't answer his question. This is just to be clear. The Rebbe didn't say it's justified. The Rebbe just said, just like you could see that there's a narrow perspective and there's a broader perspective, so too we have a very narrow perspective on what's going on. If you would understand things in a broader way, and we don't because we're not, and we're not expected to, but we could say is the Eibishter has his way of understanding things. Umemela, I could be calm. Therefore, I could continue being besimcha.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ja, shirkayach. Okay, Akapanim, the Iker is so taka zayin na emes simcha. Mishenich nasad marim besimcha, and should be ala Yehudim, or Yisrael, besimcha, v'zasen vikar.
Amen.
You want to share the Makaitis in the chat?
The Makaitis for, you're saying which parts of Tanya?
Yeah. Or is there a mimer which should
what we did today was we went through, I could tell you, it's Perek Yud Beis in Igeres HaTshuva, Siman Chav Beis in Igeres HaKodesh, Siman Yud Aleph in Igeres HaKodesh, and Perek Chavav in Likutei Amarim. But we went through 4 different biurim and how to be Mekabel Yisurim and to be Besimcha.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Zayges and Tafrelichem Purim.